What does it mean to tell a story with depth? How can you tell the difference between a deep story and a shallow one? When these questions started to dance around in my head, my first instinct was to find a good example. Start with something I knew was well written and analyze what made it work. I wanted an example that was known to a lot of people without necessarily being oversaturated in terms of analysis. That is when I settled upon Baldur's Gate 3. Has been much talk about this game's incredible art, acting, gameplay, and it's all deserved. In terms of innovation and quality, I would place Baldur's Gate 3 among the greatest games of the 21st century. But the focus of this video is upon the writing of Baldur's Gate 3. More specifically, the stuff that lies beneath the game's surface and within the background. I believe that well-executed themes are what give a piece of media depth. When there is more than one layer to a story, when you can pick it apart and determine that everything you've just seen is pointing towards one or two larger ideas or concepts, I really think that means you got something special. To be clear, I'm not saying a piece of media needs to be deep to be enjoyable, or vice versa. So many art house films shield themselves with the rhetoric of, "It's a metaphor, bro, it doesn't have to make sense." Don't even get me started on directors like, Shyamalan, who basically live in that headspace. With that disclaimer out of the way, when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3 itself, I have identified two main themes. Obviously, there are many other smaller ideas that you could pull out of this game, no doubt. But in my view, these two themes saturate the entire Baldur's Gate 3 experience. They are found everywhere you look as you play the game, and even whenever you listen. The two main themes of Baldur's Gate 3 are seduction and the corrupting influence of power, and how it can lead to a cycle of abuse. Both themes can be found within the stories of Gale and Astarion, as well as the opening and closing music of the game. To start, seduction is everywhere in Baldur's Gate 3. It truly seems like everybody wants to take a bite out of you and the cast of playable characters. In most examples, this sexual allure is a clear negative influence on their lives. To start, Gale worshipped the goddess of magic, Mystra, and eventually became her lover. After accidentally offending her one day, she curses him with what is essentially a ticking magical time bomb in his heart. Later on in the game, she bestows upon Gale a new quest. Kill himself using said bomb to destroy the main bad guy of the game, and all will be forgiven. Hard to get more abusive than that. Near the end of the game, if Gale does not blow himself up, and if he discovers a certain ancient artifact capable of actually challenging Mystra, she's suddenly all for forgiving Gale, promising to fix the bomb in his heart if he gives the artifact to her. Any ending where he reunites with Mystra in Elysium seems happy on the surface, but many have called into question the healthiness of such a relationship. On the other hand, we have Astarion. Astarion is one of the most clear-cut examples of this phenomenon in the game. He is a vampire spawn who was turned by an elder and truly vile vampire named Cazador. Astarion has been in an abusive relationship with this man for 200 years before the events at the beginning of the game broke Cazador's magical control, giving him his first shot at freedom in centuries. Grow closer to Astarion, you learn more about this past relationship. Cazador could be seductive, even sweet, When you were on his good side, he would let you drink small amounts of human blood and allow you to sleep in a nice, comfy bedroom. But if you disappointed him, or if he simply felt like hurting you, you would sleep in a filthy, crowded dormitory with the rest of his vampire spawns. Astarion describes many occasions on which Cazador would purposely humiliate him, such as offering him a dead rat and commanding he eat it, only to punish him regardless of his choice. His spawns loved him in part, but mostly they feared disobeying him due to the terrible consequences resistance brought. Think of it like R. Kelly's cult, but with murder and torture. Okay, with more murder and torture. Despite how terribly abusive he was to him, Cazador doesn't believe for a second that Astarion has the willpower to stay away forever. A belief we see from many abusers in the real world. Now, in my mind, one of the strongest ties between this game and the theme of seduction can be found in one of its most famous tracks, Down by the River. Borislav Slavov, the game's composer, has said himself that he considers this to be the main theme of the game musically, and that it was the first song he created for the game. As such, he put the motif from this theme into many other songs throughout the game, amping up the intensity of the melody to fit whatever occasion was needed. There are many more examples of this than what I've played here. Given that, Slavov clearly intended the message of this song to permeate throughout the game. But what is the song about? Let's take a look at a few key sections.
Let your sleeping soul take flight, take me through the night.
At the start of the song, the female singer tells us to bond our heart with hers and to sweep her off her feet, which is a phrase that oftentimes has a romantic connotation. Now, how does the song end? We see clearer romantic language. There is a sense of carpe diem in this portion of the song, of taking a risk while you still have the time, of celebrating youthful passion and damning the consequences. And if the rest of the song wasn't clear enough, the outro makes it more so. We're having sex with someone by a river and then skedaddling. If that is what the song is about on a surface level, then why is it here? How does it apply? The answer to that lies with the Dream Visitor. In the early access version of the game, they were a much less subtle figure. They always appeared in your mindscape, next to a river, and would try every tactic they could to make you stay with them. If you fell for the seduction, you would feel great bliss, and the Illithids would win and give you a game over. The current Dream Visitor is much more complex, but the seduction elements are still there. Literally once you get to Act 3, and metaphorically throughout the whole game, as they push you to embrace your Illithid potential. Dream Visitor, and by extension, Down by the River, represents an inhuman allure, the allure of sex and power. Gods, elder vampires, demons, and beings from the astral plane all want a piece of our main characters, their bodies, and their souls. So be careful who you get into bed with, because a night's pleasure can lead to an eternity of suffering. I mentioned earlier that sometimes power, rather than sex, was the temptation used to ensnare our protagonist's soul. This leads us to a different recurring pattern throughout the game. those who fall for the corrupting allure of power will end up contributing to a cycle of abuse. This is the game's second main theme, in my eyes. Once again, Astarion serves as the clearest example of this theme. As you move to confront his evil master in Act 3, you discover that Cazador had machinations far beyond having an R. Kelly mansion. He had created thousands of vampire spawns over the course of 200 years for one purpose: a demonic ritual in which the lives of every vampire spawn he had created would have their souls sacrificed to Mephistopheles, in exchange for Cazador becoming a vampire ascendant. The strengths of a vampire increased with none of their weaknesses. Assuming you succeed in beating him, Astarion proposes an idea. Carve the required sigil onto Cazador's back so that he can take Astarion's spot and Astarion can ascend in his place. Whether or not he goes through with this depends on your relationship with him and the discussions you've had leading up to this moment. If Astarion goes through with the ritual, it delivers exactly what was promised. Several of his gameplay abilities are enhanced, and in the epilogue, he can walk in sunlight without assistance. However, the personality change is almost immediate. He speedruns, letting the power go to his head, and immediately begins to talk down to you and other party members. Most telling in my eyes is that if you romanced him, he offers to turn you into a spawn so that you can both be immortal. However, he makes it clear he wants to keep you as a spawn, not a true vampire, meaning he has control over you. If you pass a wisdom check in the moment he bites you, you can tell that he believes that becoming his spawn is an act of degradation, not love. He, of course, denies being anything like Cazador, saying that by ascending, he has become truly free. Yet if you search Cazador's manor, you can find an old skull. Interacting with the skull reveals that hundreds of years ago, Cazador himself was a humble vampire spawn under the control of a horrifically abusive true vampire named Velioth. Once, when Cazador attempted to rebel against his master, he was left impaled on a spike and kept alive for 11 years. Cazador was abused and went on to become an abuser himself. Now Astarion stands at the precipice of going down the same path, and if you're thinking I'm overreaching, hear it from Astarion himself in a playthrough where he doesn't go through with the ritual.
Cazador left his mark on me in more ways than one. For a moment, I wanted to be just like him. I came so close to losing everything back there. To losing myself. Back at the ritual, all I could see was the power on offer and the safety it promised. I was so blinded by it. Just as Cazador was.
Gale is also no stranger to power's corrupting influence, depending on how you guide him. Remember that ancient artifact I mentioned earlier? The one that made even Mystra sweat? With the right encouragement, Gale will seek to use the Crown of Karsus to ascend into godhood. And with the right steps in place, he'll actually succeed. When you meet him again at the end of the epilogue, he has literally become a capital G god. The god of ambition. Now, the corruption in this case is more subtle than Ascended Astarion, though they both seem quite happy on the surface. Yet, Ambition has been Gale's greatest flaw since the beginning of the game. Mystra put that bomb in his chest because the gift he tried to give her was a subtle flex of his rising power. The wizard who created the crown of Karsus and attempted to ascend to godhood thousands of years ago fucked up so badly it basically nuked an entire kingdom and almost destroyed all magic in the world. Gale heard all of this and went, "Yep, I should totally try that out for myself." And there are multiple endings of the game where it does not work out for him. In one ending, he doesn't find the right information and dies attempting ascension. In another, if he succeeds at ascension, but you pushed him to be spiteful against Mystra, he attempts to battle her for control of her domain, which again leads to his obliteration. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Gale goes from being a mortal to a minor deity, and he still needs more. His ambition is a deadly sin, and allowing him to ascend turns it from a bottomless pit into a sucking black hole. We also see that his sensibilities have changed since becoming a god. He makes it clear that he accepts prayers from all people with ambition, including evildoers. This certainly seems like a betrayal of his attempts to play hero throughout the main game. And if the player character, as Karlach or Astarion, asks God Gale for help with their condition, you get quite the sour response.
Such a feat would certainly be within my capabilities, but alas, my hands are tied. Bodily interference with mortals lies well beyond the purview of my particular niche of divinity. Ask for my blessing in pursuing this ambition, though, and I'll gladly offer what encouragement I can. No use for the god of ambition? Your kin certainly don't see things that way. Their zeal for my doctrine is quite unparalleled. I can't imagine what they'd do to someone threatening to cure them, but I'm sure you can do that without my help as well.
After traveling together for weeks, saving his life by helping him stabilize the bomb in his chest, by helping him find the materials he needed to ascend in the first place, your friend turned god tells you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. This is exactly the kind of apathetic god that Gale accused Mystra of being at the start of the game. 6 months after becoming a god has seemingly already robbed him of his humanity. Just like how we don't know what depravity Ascended Astarion will get up to after 200 years, who's to say what lies upon God Gale's horizons? Perhaps he'll take up a mortal lover and curse them too one day, if his unending ambition doesn't cause a war in the heavens first. Finally, As Down by the River was one of the first songs the player hears, one of the last songs you'll hear is The Power. Where the first song represented seduction, the last song adds the theme of power to the mix. Let's take a look.
You into me, and me into you.
In my eyes, this song ties the two themes of this video together in a bow. This song involves the dream visitor and speaks of our struggle with having a stranger in our head and bodies that are evolving into something inhuman, as reflected in verse 1. The rest of the song, in my eyes, is the plea of the dream visitor, begging us not to cure ourselves of the illithid parasite, which has indeed been a source of power for us throughout the game. But metaphorically, it is also an abuser trying to get their victim to stay. That explains all of the talk of self-identity being worn away, absorbed into this larger force that claims to love us. The player character voices their fear of what's happening to them under the dream visitor, And the rest of the song is their response. Hey babe, don't leave. Don't fight. Don't fight the power. And ultimately, like so much of the game, to what extent you fight the power is entirely up to you. But with the power being the final note the game ends on, its importance cannot be ignored. It's the perfect bookend to everything we've seen. Ultimately, when you zoom out and look at the big picture, you can see a certain degree of synergy between the two themes. If there was one grand theme of Baldur's Gate 3, one to rule them all, it would be this. There is joy and beauty within the world, but there is also much evil. Don't let anyone or anything control your heart. Your life is your own. Thank you for watching, everyone.